gas industry.
Question number 11, Carol Beaumont.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. To the Minister of Justice, given the magnitude of the problem of family violence, is it acceptable to her that none of the Family Violence Death Review Committee's recommendations from their last annual report have been completed and no action has been taken on a number of recommendations around funding family violence training for professionals and addressing the need for better multi-agency practice addressing family violence?
Honourable Judith Collins.
Speaker, the member is incorrect. To suggest that no action has been taken is wrong. It is also wrong to expect the recommendations to have been completed within 1 year, as many of them call for work to be ongoing. Ministry of Justice, Police, Corrections, MSD, Health and Education are undertaking a large body of work to address family violence. Agencies have been working together to develop a comprehensive range of initiatives which we expect to announce shortly. On the training front, this government's family court reforms included a review of domestic violence programs to upskill providers, and there is ongoing training across all agencies to improve the response to family violence. In its report, the committee also commended better support for victims of violent crime. This government is committed to putting victims at the heart of the criminal justice system. In the past few weeks, this House has passed the Victims of Crime Reform Bill and the Victims' Orders Against Violent Offenders Bill. And as I've said, Mr Speaker, there's more initiatives to be announced in a few weeks.
Supplementary question, Carol Beaumont.
Regarding the statement by Professor Julia Tolmie, Chair of the Family Violence Death Review Committee, that, quote, "The most disturbing death reviews for me are ones where the woman is quite clearly fighting for her life. She sees that she's going to die and she is actively taking every action she possibly can to save her life. She's contacting the police, she's telling landlords, she's telling neighbours, she's telling friends, and we are not providing her with effective help," end quote. Is the Minister satisfied that the government is doing enough to effectively protect women in these circumstances, and will she reconsider implementing the recommendations around better multi-agency practice?
Honourable Judith Collins.
Well, Mr Speaker, I thought I'd made myself clear. I don't believe that anybody has done enough on this issue, which is why this government is taking it extremely seriously and will have a range of announcements to make in the very short, very near future.
Supplementary question, Carol Beaumont.
Given there are on average 35 deaths from family violence per year, and many of these deaths are preventable, does she agree with the Family Violence Death Review Committee's call for a radical change in the way our country responds to dangerous and chronic cases of family violence, and when can we expect a comprehensive government response?
Honourable Judith Collins.
Well, Mr Speaker, I've already answered that question. I wish that member would listen and take this issue seriously.
To take it seriously.
Order. Supplementary question, Jacinda Ardern.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. Supplementary to the Minister. Given this report finds that children who witness intimate partner violence are psychologically damaged by it, why do they receive no ongoing counselling or support within their foster care or home for life placement, an issue frequently raised with me by foster parents and caregivers?
Honourable Judith Collins.
Well, Mr Speaker, I understand from Minister Paula Bennett that isn't true across the board, but I would also say to that member though, is that if she just waits for a short period of time, she will see the government's comprehensive report.
Order. Supplementary question, Jacinda Ardern.
Supplementary to the Minister. Why is every family violence notification referred by the police to SIFs not automatically acted upon when this report notes that a child who witnesses violence deals with the effects that are, quote, more disturbing than the effects of direct physical maltreatment?
Honourable Judith Collins.
Mr Speaker, that question should really be directed for the Minister with responsibility for child, youth and family.
Order. I can anticipate it, but I will hear. No, I'll hear from the member.
Mr Speaker, as you know, this question was put down to the Minister of Social Development and was transferred by the government. It's a question about the review and the review report. The government has chosen the Minister to answer this question. She should be able to address it.
Order. I want to clarify this. Speaker's ruling 1521 is very clear. The government has the right to transfer a question, but not if in any way it then obstructs the answer. So now we have a situation where I'm going to invite the member to re-ask the question, but I ask the Minister to reflect on the answer that then says, well, it's not my responsibility. That should have been considered at the time the government made. Order. That should have been considered at the time the government made a decision to transfer it. I'll invite Jacinda Ardern to ask the question again. Point of order. Honourable Judith Collins.
Mr Speaker, with respect, the supplementary that the member has asked is a long way away from the initial primary question. And I think that's the issue, is that the opposition has chosen to ask a primary about a particular report, particularly around domestic violence, and the member, Ms Ardern, has chosen to take a particular part of family violence into child abuse areas and to ask a specific question about that, and that's the issue.
Order. I don't need assistance. I'm going to give the member a chance to ask the question in a minute. I don't entirely accept that answer from the Minister, in that when I look at the 4th annual report, and this information was obviously in the hands of the government when they decided to transfer the question, that notes that this is indeed a multi-agency matter, and in fact for most of the recommendations is a child, youth and family which is leading the response. I invite Jacinda Ardern to re-ask the question.
Thank you.
Point of order.
Just want to get very clear what your ruling now might mean for the government's ability to work out who might be best to answer a question. The anticipation here was that we get questions about action taken on the review. As a result of the review, the primary responsibilities for that overwhelmingly lie in the Justice portfolio, not Department of Social Welfare. We made a genuine transfer to try and create an opportunity to get best information to the House. The fact that the member decides to pick on the back end of the question and then start saying, well, the Minister can't answer it, really indicates that the question here is far too long in the first place and not at all specific.
Order. My job is to ensure that all questions get the best possible answer. The member himself, on the point he's just raised, said that the government's decision was that the best possible answer would become by the transfer of this question to the Minister of Justice. I then invite the member to ask the question again, but the answer then, that I don't have that information, it would have been better if the answer was given by the Minister of Social Development, means that I would have to think very carefully about a transfer occurring in the future if I felt it was unlikely we were going to get the answer that the member deserves. Jacinda Ardern. Order. I'll hear from the Honourable Gerry Brownlee, then I'll hear from Jacinda Ardern.
Mr Speaker, the problem that you present to us now then is that what if you have questions that are set down to the Minister of Justice that end up being police questions? What if you have questions to the Minister of Defence that end up being foreign affairs?
I accept. I can explain that. What we have here is the Family Violence Death Review Committee. It is, as I say, across multi-agencies, but most of the responsibilities in the document I have are led by Child, Youth and Family. I expect the Minister, having accepted that she wants to answer this question, which is the prerogative of the government, then to be in a position to answer the question. Jacinda Ardern wants to speak to the point of order.
Mr Speaker, you've resolved that. I'll re-ask my question. Supplementary to the Minister, why is every family violence notification referred by the police to SIFs not automatically acted upon when this report notes that a child who simply witnesses violence deals with effects that are, quote, more disturbing than the effects of direct physical maltreatment, end quote?
Honourable Judith
Well,
Collins.
Mr Speaker, I don't have the detail to that, as I've made it pretty plain.
Supplementary question, Carol Beaumont.
Is she comfortable with her position?
Order. Could the Minister, stop yelling across the chamber. I've asked Carol Beaumont to order. If the member wants the privilege of staying to answer the rest of the questions, we'll have less interjection. On Carol Beaumont.
Supplementary to the Minister of Justice. Is she comfortable with her position that, quote, protection orders are pieces of paper and if breaches of them aren't treated seriously by the courts, then there is nothing we can do, end quote, when the Family Violence Death Review Committee says there needs to be improvement in the police's enforcement of protection orders?
Honourable Judith Collins.
Mr Speaker, I am absolutely comfortable with my position on this. As the member well knows, I had a very close family member who had a protection order out on her former husband. He killed her. So I will not be lectured by that member about protection orders.
Order. Supplementary question. Carol Beaumont.
Will the Minister reconsider Labor's recent call following the Glenn report?
She's laughing about it. Order. I don't want to have to deal with the member again. Carol Beaumont, would you simply ask your question?
Thank you, Mr Speaker. Will the Minister reconsider Labor's recent call following the Glenn report and the Family Violence Death Review Committee report showing an average of 35 deaths per year to establish a cross-party task force to address the rates of child abuse and domestic violence in New Zealand?
Honourable Judith Collins.
Mr Speaker, my colleagues and I are very happy to come up with ideas to help to fight family violence, and if that member has any, I'm happy to listen to them.
Question number 12, Kanwaljit Bakshi.
Thank you, Mr Speaker, and my question is to the Minister of Statistics and asks,